The New York-Amsterdam News, the League of Women Voters of the City of New York, and Manhattan Neighborhood Network are pleased to welcome you to this debate to fill the state Senate seat in Manhattan's District 30. I'm Eleanor Tatum, publisher and editor-in-chief of the New York-Amsterdam News, and I will be joined by candidates Brian Benjamin and Ruben Vargas. A third candidate, Dawn Simmons, who is running on the Republican line, is not able to attend today's debate. On Tuesday, May 23rd, a special election will be held for registered voters in Manhattan's 30th District, which represents more than 312,000 residents. It includes Harlem, East Harlem, the Upper West Side, Washington Heights, Hamilton Heights, and Morningside Heights. The Senate seat vacated earlier this year on February 14th when former Senator Bill Perkins was elected to represent City Council District 9, governing some of these same neighborhoods. Each candidate will answer several rounds of questions with 1-minute responses and 30-second rebuttals each. Each candidate will give a 30-second opening statement and a 1-minute closing statement. Thank you both for being here. Mr. Benjamin, please, your opening statement.
I would like to thank Manhattan Neighborhood Network. I'd like to thank New York-Amsterdam News and the League of Women Voters for hosting this debate. We are presently in a time that's a very dangerous time. We have elected a president who has been doing some things that have driven us all very crazy, and a lot of us are concerned. It is very important that whoever we elect in any of our seats understand the world that we live in, have the skills, experience, and the know-how necessary to do the job of representing our district. And I do have that experience. I'm the Democratic nominee for the state Senate seat, and I look forward to the conversation that will ensue.
Mr. Vargas?
Hi, I'm Ruben Vargas. I am up in Manhattan. I have been for a long time, and I'm doing activism and I'm helping the community. I'm running for state Senate because I am the person who could bring about the changes accordingly with the law, the changes that it is currently needed. I will bring issues like pension protections. I will talk about the legalized, unionized, and government-regulated prostitution. I will bring issues as the corruption preventers in Albany. We know the problem that I've been having in Albany. I have the package that will correct, that it will fix for real the problem that I have in Albany. That is me, and I think it would be the ideal candidate for the current time, but what is happening now in this society. I am the person whose main goal in my life is to make the best contribution to improve society, the society that we live in, and for future generation of societies.
For our first question, we'll start with you, Mr. Vargas. What do you consider the most pressing need in the district, and would you request serving on the state Senate committee if elected?
I definitely will. One of the most pressing needs within the district specifically is rent, is housing is one of the problems, and definitely I would bring the issues that I will fight honestly, energetically, and in good faith. My campaign had no contribution from anybody, and the reason is that I really want to fight for the needy people. I want to bring I will fight for without any interference with anything that would impair the decision-making capacity of the legislator. And I will be able to do the thing that all politicians said that they would do for housing, and then when they get there, they face the lobbyists, and they do difference. But I will do the right thing for housing.
Mr. Benjamin, same question.
Sure, I agree. I think affordable housing is definitely the biggest issue. It is a crisis that we have, and there's two components of the crisis. One part is just the new production of affordable housing that can meet all the income tiers of our neighborhoods and districts. I mean, we have seniors who have concerns with not enough housing being created for them. Folks who are in the 60% of AMI levels and below have a lot of concerns about the opportunities there. That's one issue. The second issue is sort of making sure that the present affordable housing that's in a neighborhood like Manhattan folks who live there are not harassed and are not pushed out of their homes because landlords want to have increase the rents. And so I think you have to have a combination of those two, but I think you need to have someone who's elected who understands these issues. I build affordable housing for a living. I understand how the rent laws work. I understand how affordable housing is created. I understand the ULURP process. All the issues that surround this we need. It's not enough to say you want to fix a problem. It is more important to say, I know how to fix that problem, and I will work with the city and the state and the federal government to do so.
I think I should answer, rebut to that response. I think it has been a lot of demonstrations because of the performance of the great gentleman Benjamin as a administrator, as a landlord administrator. And it's not being said. It's a New York Post on March 27. It stated all. There were a lot of people protesting. Not me. The people were protesting because of the way, which is totally contradict what Mr. Benjamin has expressed. It's not have been the same way. It is on the March 27 New York Post that the answer to that question.
Could I respond
Mr.
to
Benjamin,
that?
would you like to respond?
Well, let me first say the New York Post is an interesting publication, but let me address the issue directly. One of the planks of Mayor de Blasio's time as mayor is that he wants to build 200,000 units of affordable housing. There's two components of that, 80,000 units, which are new construction, and 120,000 units are rehabbing buildings that have a lot of issues and concerns. I'm part of a company that has been working with the mayor to deal with some of the buildings that have had thousands and thousands of violations, and we have been working aggressively to do that. And so when we have gone to some of these buildings, we have been addressing those violations, and that's something that we are proud of. And the city has been supportive of us and has stated so directly. And a number of residents who live in our buildings have endorsed my candidacy for state senate because they believe in the work that we do.
All right, thank you. Mr. Vargas, we'll start with you for this question. The governor is in favor of supportive housing, and the mayor has called for the construction of supportive housing in this district. Will you vote for it?
I do. I will vote for that. Definitely, housing in any way, shape, or form that we could help to abate the problem, the housing problem, that has to be done. But this is the thing: honest answer. The people who matches the thinking, the word, and the fact, and what they done and what they do. That's the problem that happened with the politicians.
Right, we're talking about supportive housing in particular here.
Well, and that's I support it. I agree with the mayor. I support the mayor on that issue.
In supportive housing.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Benjamin.
I think we need to look at making sure that supportive housing is fairly distributed around the city. I do think that there are some concerns around making sure that there's the fair share of distribution and that we don't concentrate certain types of housing in certain locations. And so, I mean, it's something that I would need to look at more closely and have a better understanding of exactly what the plan is. But I'm in favor of more supportive housing. I just want to make sure that there's even distribution.
All right. Mr. Benjamin, do you support public financing of political campaigns for New York State, as we have in the city?
I absolutely do support the public financing. I support it in the city, and I think it would be a good addition to the state.
Mr. Vargas?
I agree with that. That it should be, I go beyond that. The legislators in Albany has been an entrapment house. In this sense, what's the relation to that? You put in legislator with no salary, they're not making money. A senator making less than $90,000, it's a shame. And what are they doing with that? They put in legislator and the lobbyists chase after them and making contact with them. The situation is not a good thing, the way it is. We definitely have to help the legislator to have a free mind when they're going to come to make a decision that will impact the society that we live in, and the society that we want to be better, to improve.
All right. And then we'll start with you, Mr. Vargas. The constitutional right of privacy of the individual to make reproductive choices is under attack in Washington, D.C. Would you support having the federal constitutional protections of Roe v. Wade be written to New York state law?
Well, I will have to look at the way that it is being written. Definitely, I would support the protecting the right of the woman by all far. The difference to my opponent who has some issues on the New York Post of April 17 issue with female women. He was going to tell you that he supports all the female issues. But again, when you go to the facts are totally different than regular standard politicians come to speak here. The young gentleman Benjamin is supported by hundreds of politicians. He himself is not going to make any decision at all.
Do you support Roe v. Wade?
It depends how be written. The fact that
no, I'm asking. Do you support?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I do.
Mr. Benjamin?
Yeah, I'll answer the question. I do support Roe v. Wade, and more importantly, on the New York state level, there's already a bill, the New York Reproductive Health Act, that I will aggressively support. And I believe that we have to codify into New York state law the protections for a woman's right to choose. We cannot leave that sort of hanging in the balance as we wait and see what happens with the new Supreme Court picks that President Trump is putting forth. And so I feel very strongly about this issue, and I've already been talking to some of the state senators who are pushing that bill, and I look forward to joining them as a co-sponsor in that legislation.
All right, Mr. Benjamin, have you served on a community board in your district, and what have you learned that will affect your votes in the New York State Senate if you have?
Sure. I've been on Community Board 10, which represents Central Harlem, for the last 6 years. I joined the board, and last year I was asked to be chair of the board. 2 years before that, I became chair of the Land Use Committee. One of the things that we deal with extensively is affordable housing and sort of the ULURP process that surrounds that. And so for me, that is a very critical piece that I want to focus on. But there are two other pieces. One is criminal justice reform, and the second one is economic development, particularly for our small businesses, to help preserve our neighborhoods and make sure that as there is gentrification, which is happening, that the culture and character and integrity of our neighborhoods are protected at the same time. And so I think affordable housing, criminal justice reform, and economic development are three issues that I really will look to focus on if elected to be the next state senator.
Mr. Vargas, same question.
Which question?
Have you served on a community board?
No, I had not, sir. I have not been a chairman of community board. I have been there in the community board 12, community board 7.
Have you served? Have you been?
No, I had not.
But
That's not a demanding factor in order to be the good legislator that I will be.
Oh, I didn't say it was.
No,
I was just asking if you had.
Sir. I had not been the chairman of any community board. Yes.
Well, it's not chair. I'm not asking about chairman. Just a member of the community board.
No, I had not.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just say real quickly, because I think that while that's true, I do think when you serve on a community board, you see every single issue that a community deals with. I mean, I get calls all hours of the night, all day about quality of life issues, sanitation, transportation, affordable housing, health. Our safety net hospitals are at risk. You deal with those issues on a community board. So it's not that necessarily you need to be on a community board to deal with those issues, but it is definitely a good place to really understand your neighborhood and your community and be a part of the conversation.
And you have attended community board meetings.
I definitely. I am fighting for the real issue in the community board. I always use those 2 minutes public speaker. I have been there, community board 12, community board 11. Way before I was in manager of Thomas Jefferson Recreation Center at the time, and I was always there in the community board 11. In community board 12, I've always been with the issues. Community board 7, where I currently, I'm always with the issue. I'm speaking out. I don't have to have a title to serve the community. I serve the community because the community needs, because I want the society to improve. I have 3 children, which I speak of who I'm going to be as a legislator. My children, my son graduated from West Point, the military academy. My one daughter is graduated magna cum laude from City College and currently in a master's degree program at Columbia University. And my other daughter graduated also from City College. That's the kind of person. I'm concerned about the current and future generation. I'm concerned about the well-being of the community. I don't have to have a title. I don't have to be paid to be serving the community, to do the best for the community.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vargas.
Community boards are volunteer positions, just to be clear.
Yes,
everyone volunteers.
Yes,
Okay.
I do know that.
All right.
All right, Mr. Vargas, the next question, we'll start with you. Voters will be asked to vote on the proposition of holding a constitutional convention in the November elections. This question is on the ballot every 20 years. If approved, delegates would be appointed to update the Constitution on such issues of streamlining the court system, ethics, the influence of money in our political system, nonpartisan redistricting, and voting reforms. It may also take away some of the protections for the indigent and those not represented in our courts. Will you vote for holding a constitutional convention? And this is a state.
I think it's time to hold a constitutional convention. There are things that need to be looked up, to be adjusted to the current generation and the current society. For example, I am a person who, for renewable marriage. Marriage has been a tradition, but nowadays, marriage doesn't last more than 7 years in average. So I am bringing to the table that it's time for renewable marriage. 10 years, marriage expired. If you want to continue marriage, you renew, you go to another honeymoon, and that's what you do. People sometimes they are married, forcibly married because they don't dare the first step in starting the divorce, but they don't no longer want to live together. But that happened many times. Now, this is, for example, it is time to the Constitutional Convention to bring about issues like renewable marriage. You marry, you don't want to be long, 10 years, marriage expires, then you continue marriage, you go to another honeymoon.
All right, Mr. Benjamin.
So I am opposed to the Constitutional Convention. There's two issues tied to the Constitutional Convention. One is how delegates are picked. They're picked by the state Senate districts, and the state Senate districts, in my opinion, are gerrymandered to favor Republicans. That's number one. Number two, it also will be used, in my opinion, as a Trojan horse to attack labor laws and pension laws and things that a number of us are concerned about. Both of my parents have worked in labor unions. They have pensions. The Constitutional Convention will put a lot of that at risk, and I'm not in favor of putting our sort of residents at the risk of a constitutional convention.
All right, and this next question, we're going to start with you, Mr. Benjamin.
Sure.
What is your position on mayoral control of the schools? Currently, the legislature extends control for 1 year only.
Sure, I'm in favor of mayoral control of public schools. I think the extension should be longer, maybe 3 years, and then we can revisit. Obviously, we need to always be able to track and monitor progress that's being made. It is enormously important that every young person gets a quality education, and we need to make sure that our public schools are able to provide that quality education. And so I support the mayor's efforts in doing so, but I do think it's important that the state sort of keeps monitor and accountability to ensure that we're moving forward in a way that's productive.
Mr. Vargas?
I think mayor control will help a little bit more in the school, and I will support the mayor control by the term of 3 years terms. I will support that.
Is 3 years on the table right now?
We're not sure. I believe 1 year has been what happened last term. I'm just telling you what I would support. I would support that. I would support anything that keeps the current system in place in terms of the mayor having control.
All right, I mean, mayoral control is something that was brought back under the Bloomberg administration. It was something, community control was fought for in Ocean Hill, Brownsville in the late 1960s. Because communities of color in particular did not have enough say in the education of their children. Do you believe that our communities have enough say in what is going on in education?
I think that mayoral control with some qualifiers that do sort of recognize that education is not a one-size-fits-all kind of approach, and I do think that there are ways for us to have mayoral control and have a community participation in the conversation. But I think that's what we have hearings for. And so, I mean, at the high level, I'm in support of mayoral control, but I do think that we should make sure that different communities that have different needs. I mean, poverty is an issue that some communities face more than others. And so I think that needs to be part of the conversation. But I do support the mayor having control of our public schools.
Mr. Vargas?
I do. The mayor is responsible for the education, whether directly or anyway, he has to respond for the education. I am for providing the children the best possible education. The more people who are responsible for it, it will help better. I remember when the prior mayor, Bloomberg, fought for that, and I definitely I do agree with the mayor control. The mayor should have some control. The mayor has to respond to an education. When something's happening in school, the mayor has to respond. So I support that mayor control.
All right, now we're going to go to some questions that were submitted from our audience. The first question, and we will start with you, Mr. Vargas. If elected to office, please confirm which political group you will caucus with, Democratic Party, Independent Democratic Conference, or the Republican Party?
Well, I'm a person that I don't fit in a box. That way, that question is boxing me. I will caucus with the right issues, the issues that better the society, the issues that help the community, the issues that help to improve or provide the children better possible education.
Which caucus do you think you will?
I will be state senator.
Will you align yourself with most often, do you think?
I will align with the right issues. With my caucus, I wouldn't be part of a cult, in any political cult, whether the left from right or right from left. I will caucus, my decision in Albany won't be impaired by anything other than the well-being of society. I'm here for the well-being of the society, not for the well-being of the political party or the caucus or people who respond to the lobbyists. That's what they're doing. That's what in many cases they are responding. I will caucus with the best for the society, the issues that are best for the society. At the time,
Mr. Benjamin?
That's my response.
Sure. I will caucus with the mainline Democratic caucus. And just let me put this in some context here. We presently have a situation where we have 63 state senators. 32, the people of New York have elected 32 Democrats, okay? And presently 8 of those Democrats have decided to caucus with the Republican Party. That's the Independent Democratic Caucus. So essentially what the 8 Democrats who are caucusing with the Republicans have done is decided to give them power. So as far as I'm concerned, either you're caucusing with the Democrats or you're caucusing with the Republicans. And I will caucus with the mainline Democrats. I've been very clear about that. And I think it is important to remember, in this world of Donald Trump as president and what is happening in Washington, D.C., it is enormously important that we protect undocumented workers here. We protect our women's right to choose. These things are all tied. You can't assume politics is not part of the process. And so either you're going to caucus with the Democrats or you're going to caucus with the Republicans. In one way, shape, or form, I choose to caucus with the Democrats.
Thank you.
I got to answer to that. The situation is this. The one who brings about the renewable marriage, the one who brings about best possible education, I will vote for that. Those are the things. I will not be voting, but I make clear, I will not be voting as a cult with my eyes closed for whatever someone in the political party said to do that way. And that's not right. I won't caucus not for the independent anything, or the caucus, or not for anything. It's just for the best thing of the society. Those issues I support. Could be the Democrat. I believe that the Democrat I would support more than the Democrat because they're the best, supposed to be the best. We will be with them in most of the issues.
Thank you, Mr. Vargas. We're going to start with our closing statements. Mr. Benjamin?
Sure. We are dealing with a state that has a lot of issues, a lot of needs. There are concerns about what's happening on the federal level and how that impacts our state level. I am the Democratic nominee for this seat. I will caucus and support the Democratic Party in helping to make sure that we provide comprehensive bail reform for our residents, that we make sure that we provide the New York Health Act, where I will be a co-sponsor of that, the New York Reproductive Health Act. There are a number of progressive and key issues that need to get passed in this state. I was born in this district. I was born in Harlem Hospital. I've served this district on the community board for 6 years. I presently build affordable housing in this district, and I love where I live. And I will continue to fight, if elected to the state Senate, to beat back on some of the activities that are happening in Washington, D.C., and to make sure that our state and our city works hard to ensure that the Democratic caucus brings a lot of the progressive needs that we have for the city.
Mr. Vargas, your closing statement.
I'm running for state senate. I will be the state senator because this is what I'm bringing to the state senate. To stop corruption in Albany and have a package. What do I do to stop corruption in Albany? I will bring a legislative inspector general whose sole job will be to assure that the legislator inspector general with enforcement capacity, ability to produce. That's one thing. I will double the salary to the legislator, because the problem is it's been an entrapment in Albany. They put in the legislator to work, and they're not paying less than $90,000. It's a shame. That's what they make. And then you have these lobbyists. And I will legislate also to keep the lobbyists away from legislator, to make it illegal contact between lobbyists and legislator, because that's what's happening. Through the lobbyists, businesses, the bad people, the people of bad will, have been dominating the whole process through the lobbyists and contacting. And legislator with a part-time job. Legislator should be a full-time job, and I will double the salary, and I will make it happen. And there are other issues that is important to the society. We have to make sure pension protections. When a police officer go out on the street, the police officer sometimes is confused, he's nervous, and not losing his pension is his life. And they don't do the job, the best job sometimes that they could do, because the pension, which is the most important thing, that what they work for, is being affected. They would be, definitely, once vested in the pension, any future event would be not impacting the pension of the individual.
I want to thank the candidates Brian Benjamin and Ruben Vargas for participating in today's debate. The special election for the 30th District State Senate seat will be held Tuesday, May 23rd. You do not need to belong to any political party to vote in this election, but you do need to be registered to vote. For more information about voting on May 23rd, your poll site, and the candidates, you can visit the League of Women Voters website, lwvnyc.org. Thank you for watching Race to Represent on Manhattan Neighborhood Network. I'm Eleanor Tatum. Don't forget to vote if you are in the 30th District this Tuesday, May 23rd.